Non-attachment is a concept you'll come across in a number of places, most of them having to do with the various traditions of Eastern philosophy, Hinduism, Buddhism, and in Taoism, though in the latter case expressed within a different lexicon. You'll also find the concept of non-attachment in various New Age systems, that is, the ones that have adopted certain Eastern ideas. It's a rather misunderstood notion, and misconceptions about it abound. The intention of this video is to briefly state what non-attachment is and dispel a few of the myths and misconceptions regarding it. Now, to speak of non-attachment, we first have to have some sense of what attachment is. And attachment is simply the ego's identification with and relationship to externals. Relationships designed specifically to grant that ego its own identity and form, and give it concretion. In short, attachments are formed in order to bolster the ego. This identification and relationship with externals can involve just about anything. You can look to your own emotional attachments to see this. It can be other people, physical objects, beliefs and ideas, ideologies, abstractions such as nationality, ethnicity, race, community. You name it, the ego can attach itself to it. The key to understanding the true nature of non-attachment lies in this understanding of the nature and function of attachment itself. Let me quickly dispel one or two misconceptions about non-attachment before I explain what it actually is. Non-attachment is not indifference. It is not nihilism. Non-attachment is not a synonym for detachment. That's one of the big ones right there, the idea that non-attachment and detachment are in some way related, if not identical. They are in no way related. Detachment is a psychological mode or technique or posture one adopts, usually so as to divorce oneself from some kind of painful reality. It's a kind of psychotherapeutic method a person uses to minimize suffering. Now, I'm not going to argue the merits of that. I'm simply stating that non-attachment has got nothing to do with that sort of psychological posturing. Philosophical, spiritual non-attachment is a natural consequence of certain events and states, specifically the state of having conquered the ego. Attachments arise out of the presence and activity of the ego. Conversely, attachment does not arise when that ego and its activity is not present. In other words, non-attachment is the absence of egotistical delusion, the absence of ego itself. That's what non-attachment is, and it is nothing more or less than this. Non-attachment is not really something one aspires to. It requires wisdom to appreciate that such a state is meaningful and valid in the first place. So what the truth seeker really ought to aspire to is wisdom itself. He can then let the consequences of that attainment be what they may. So that's it in a nutshell. Non-attachment is nothing other than the absence of egotistical grasping and identification and attachment. It's a state that occurs naturally and necessarily with the transcendence of ego-based delusions.